A very brief talk today on 1969's Eika Katappa, directed by German author Werner Schroeter. Schroeter is one of my favourite German directors. I consider him to be among the most interesting figures of the German New Wave. In my opinion, Schroeter made interesting films in each decade he operated in, from the 60s until the 2000s. Eika Katappa was Schroeter's first feature film, and it is dizzying for me to try and describe. I was unsure as to whether I can properly address this film, whether I ought to have sought after a version of it that contained more translation into English. Much of this film is in German. There are moments spoken in English, and the music, mostly German and other European opera, I believe, but again some English language lyrics as well. Now perhaps this was part of this film's overall affect. Obviously this film is meant to be a disjointed, asynchronous, and indulged as pure sensation. So I speculate as to whether this film is meant to be subtitled at all, or whether one can understand, decipher the language or not. It might be irrelevant. I mean, most English language consumers of opera cannot understand what is being sung, or so I presume. It is easy to take away from this film the idea that it was meant to be taken as a vainglorious experiment, a quasi-operatic explosion, or series of, demonstrating the unique affects of the cinematic medium. With its runtime of nearly 2.5 hours, it cannot help but make for some kind of engrossing experience. Whether one is loving or hating it, it is bound to stir some profound emotions of a kind. The IMDb description states, "This film is a collage of dramatic scenes, some exaggerated to comic effect, with asynchronous sound from well-known classic, operatic, and rock and roll music, with different approaches to love, suffering, and death." That's well enough, I suppose. There was also one user review listed on IMDb by a user named Just Apt. I quite liked this review and decided to read it out here. Sigmund and Sieglinde, Quasimodo and Esmeralda, Carmen and Don Jose, and many others. Scenes of tragic love are performed to the operatic and popular music, but all the actors grotesquely overplay their roles, so the tragedy gradually turns into the farce. A key phrase, "Life is very precious, even right now," that the dying heroes and heroines pronounce with their last expiration, sounds as a subtle derision in the context of this musical black comedy. Endless repetition of the preposterous love scenes and torturous interconnection of the fragmentary mosaic pieces turn Eika Katappa into an extremely mannered allegorical pastiche. And all this elaborately wrought suite of bizarreness in the end becomes a pure aesthetic delight. That is a fine summation, I'd say. I have linked in the description a 2012 article and film comment by one Ulrike Siegler. He has written a tremendous piece on the work of Werner Schroeter, which also discusses Eika Katappa in some detail. Thank you and have a swell day.